Well, we're a little early, but maybe we might as well start if we're here. And we could get out early too. Thanks for coming. Our title is a little not accurate. Good visits equal good health. Maybe we should say good visits are part of good health, or they can contribute to good health. But hopefully you get the idea. A mostly non-scientific reflection. As you know, we went through some stuff this summer, 14 to 15 weeks. And so we had some really good visits, and we had some visits that, could have been better. And we've come to realize we've probably been a part of some not good visits in the past because we didn't know. You don't know that until you go through it. So you want to take it from here?
Sure. You want to get it down to?
Oh, yeah.
There you go. And again, we don't want to say we have all the answers. We're hoping this will be a group discussion. You guys have good visits. You've had bad visits. And like Mark said, you've been, like we are, part of a good visit, part of probably a not so good visit. But having been in the hospital for an extended period of time, you kind of learn as a patient, what you need and what doesn't help and what maybe makes it worse at times. So again, we want group discussion. This is kind of our perspective as mine as the patient and Mark as a caregiver. Yep.
Yeah. So we've asked, you want to talk about who we asked to?
Sure. We've asked a few people to give insights. Sherry Den Hartog, Lois Heidink, the talks to be resources. But we want everybody to talk. Pastor John is here. We want everybody to talk as a group. Because, again, we don't have all the answers. This is just based on what we went through.
Yeah. So there's 6 things we want to cover, 3 things to avoid, 3 things to do. This list could probably be 10 on each side. I don't know. These are just some things that we've covered. So 3 things that we're going to talk about maybe to avoid. Don't make the patient do all the work. Don't tell the patient how bad their situation is, and they may be tired of telling their story. And then we're going to end with the 3 things to do.
Yes, to be brief, to be bright, and to be a blessing. Yeah. And we feel like those are 3. Someone told me that in the hospital, that they'd heard that from their pastor. And we've kind of taken that on to always remember when you're visiting. It's kind of a good template for how to visit.
And that handout you have, that we're not following that. Those are just some points. That's not really our outline. This is our outline right here on the screen. So, why don't you start with this one, Janelle?
Don't make the patient do all the work. I think, again, this is our experience. For me, part of what was hard was when you had to tell your story over again. And sometimes that felt like going back in time, going back over all this stuff. And sometimes you don't want to do that. It's like I didn't want to think about all the 6 surgeries and all the stuff that had happened. So don't make the patient do all the work. Don't ask them all the details because maybe they're not ready to talk about that, or that they don't want to talk about that at the time.
Yeah, and then I've seen it too as the caregiver where some people were really good at coming into the room and engaging in conversation. Others I've observed would come in and sit down, and then poor Janelle would have to sort of try to draw them out. It's like, okay, well, this is really awkward. We're sitting here very quietly, and poor Janelle, or both of us together, would have to try and engage the person in conversation to keep things moving a little bit, and it was exhausting, especially for Janelle. So just that idea of if you're going to visit, have a bit of a plan maybe. It depends on your relationship with the person too, doesn't it? Depends a lot on the relationship with the person. But to just sort of sit and wait for the patient, the person who's already suffering, to have to pull you out of your shell, that got pretty exhausting at times. So I don't know, maybe others want to weigh in on that. We only have 6 points, so we're hoping there's lots of wisdom in the room discussion on this. That would be our first one. Is anybody have observations on that or experience? A number of nurses in the room who've seen lots.
Sherry?
I don't know if now is the time to bring it up, but having worked in the hospital, it's okay not to visit or not to have visitors, and I think some people feel like, well, if somebody comes, I have to visit with them. So, what we've done is put up a no visitor sign. It's just been, the patient needs a break from people coming in. And rest is something you don't get in the hospital. So, and you might come just when that patient is finally resting. So if the door is closed, I always feel like you need to ask someone, And I think nowadays doors are closed more. People want their privacy.
Mm-hmm.
So to make sure that you can go in and visit.
Mm-hmm.
And it's okay for the patient to say, no, I'm not, and they're busy in there, and then just come back.
Yeah.
Leave and come back another time, that's okay.
Yep.
Yep.
Your going there isn't the most important thing.
Yeah. I'm just going to repeat things a little bit for the microphone, because for the live stream. So Sheridan Hartog just said it's okay to put a note on the door saying no visitors and respect a closed door. Is that a good summary of what you just said? Okay.
I would just add, in our practicum at seminary, they said, when you come to the room, you are a guest. Don't sit down as if you own the place.
Mm.
Just stay standing. And then when you're tired, you got to leave. Because you don't have a spot to sit. So it reminds you, don't overstay
Sure.
your welcome. Unless somebody asks you or invites you to sit.
Yep.
That's another matter.
Yep.
Yeah.
And like with what Sherry said, she actually encouraged me to put a no visitor sign on the door in Orange City. But then I texted a few people and said, even though it says no visitors, that doesn't mean you can't come in. Because, there's some people like Pastor John or a few of my friends who I thought, it's okay if you come in. But other people, I don't know how to say it, other people who sometimes would come, and I felt like they were only coming to find out the information so they could go and tell other people. It felt kind of not a gossip session, but like they just wanted the latest details so that they could be the ones to share with other people the latest details. So that got tiring also. And, it's hard to tell them once they're in the room to leave. So that's a good point to put a no visitor sign on and respect that.
Anybody else? Okay, good.
Mark, before you go back to the very last on fostering hope, do you have some thoughts on ideas that foster hope?
Yeah, we'll get to that with the Be Bright coming up. So
Yep.
Keep that in mind. Thanks. We had a couple of experiences like this, and again, I think Janelle and I have probably been guilty of doing this too, before our own experience. So we're not pointing fingers. This is something we've now noticed, and now we're more sensitive to. What happened to me once as a caregiver, actually twice, was the first time I was sitting in a chair, and it wasn't a good day. Janelle was in ICU, and so I was sitting down, and two women came, not from this church. Two women came and stood over me. So I was like this, and they were there for a long time, both telling me just with woe on their faces about how bad my situation was and how bad Janelle's situation was. It was terrible. And just kind of go back and forth, listening and ping pong back and forth, telling me how bad things were. I thought, wow, that was a great visit. Thanks for cheering me up. I already know how bad things are. You've had some of that too, didn't you?
Yeah, but thankfully, after they visited, they wanted to come and visit me, and Mark told them they couldn't because he knew it would just put me over the edge. So that was good. He was my protector in that one. And yeah, I mean, I had a few visits, again, people not from this church, who would like come in and they started talking about what lunch they were going to have and food and all this stuff. And I have an NG tube in my nose, feeling nauseous all the time, and never knowing when I was going to get out. And they were just talking about shopping and lunch and all the things they were going to do when I couldn't do any of those things. And it was really, I mean, one of them was pretty traumatizing because I already knew how bad it was.
Yeah, I think you had a person kind of lean over you and say, first you did this, and then you went to this, and now you're doing this. And it's like, how is that helpful, right?
Well, and they're saying, how can you do this? This is terrible. And I'm like, I know. I'm in it. Here I am. Yes, I know it is.
Any thoughts on that? I know there's a lot of wisdom in the room. This is just our own personal experience.
Lois?
I think as Christians, we have a different way of encouraging people who are brought low by circumstance. And I found that if people came to us with a card or a scripture or something that could build us up, it was the most helpful.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, Sherry.
I think, especially as we grow older in our faith walk and everything, if, maybe in the morning you read something in your devotions or scripture and how God can use that in your day. So if you go to visit, I totally agree with Lois. The pastors read scripture and stuff, but, even leaving a card with a verse on it or say, can I pray with you?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I think that as Christians and visiting, that's just really important.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Yeah, right.
I think another thing that sometimes people want to do is share what happened to somebody they knew,
Mm-hmm.
and that's not helpful.
No.
I once listened to someone tell an expectant mother about a really traumatic delivery and everything. This is not helpful.
No, it's not helpful.
No. Yeah, we had some of that too where, I had something, whatever it was, and they said, oh, I remember when, and it was like a 20 or 30-minute story about how awful it was for that person, and actually that person ended up passing away, and I'm like, I do not need to hear that. It's just like not helpful.
And again, we're not pointing fingers. I think we were
No.
guilty of this as well. Now that we've been we're on the other side of it, we're a little more sensitive to, maybe we shouldn't do that anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Any other contributions from anybody? Yeah.
Just a question. Is it helpful if you walk in and say, how can I help you today, or what do you need today? Does that help?
The question is it helpful to walk in and say, how can I help you today?
I think so, but I don't know, when you're in the hospital, and of course it depends, most normal people aren't in as long as I was. So if someone asked me that, I kind of wouldn't know what to say because I was in the hospital. They were doing everything for me, maybe they could have asked if they could help Mark. He was traveling to Sioux Falls all the time and, mow the lawn or something. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, and a number of people from church did say, hey, what can we bring you for meals and things like that.
Yeah.
Obviously, that's very helpful, very practical. Is Linda Dykstra in here? I don't see her. Linda, she was so good. She was in the hospital recently, and she says, hey, could you go to my house and do
Linda
these things?
Heisinger.
Or Linda Heisinger. she said, could you go to my house and do these things? So that was really nice. We were able to do that. So, yeah, there are times I
Yeah.
think, it depends on the relationship too, doesn't it? Yep.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think the one thing people often say is, let me know what I can do, just let me know.
Yep.
Well, that's not gonna happen very quick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, so to leave saying, I'm gonna text you later,
Yep.
there's something
Mhm.
that comes up, or, or I'm gonna, or just do the lawn,
Say,
Sure.
I'm going to do the lawn.
Yep,
Yeah.
Say
Yeah.
you're gonna do that.
Yeah. That's really good advice.
Yep.
That's something I'm guilty of. I do that. Hey, let me know how I can help, and then nothing ever happens. I say that a lot.
In my experience
Oh, you are here.
The last 6 weeks,
Yeah.
I'm not afraid to ask.
Yeah, that was great. I thought that was such a good thing. Yeah, I didn't see you there.
Thanks. All scooped snow last week, so my little dog had a place to walk.
All right, Paul.
That kind of thing
Right.
Yep.
helped me out.
Practical. Yeah. Good. The last bad one, they may be tired of telling their story. This is a tough one to talk about because, and I'm really guilty of this too, people mean well. Hey, what's going on with Janelle or with your husband or whatever? As a caregiver, what I learned during this whole summer was I was exhausted from telling the story. And so we didn't have a what do you call it, a Caring Bridge page. We should have started. We had no idea it was going to take this long. We thought she'd be out in a week. So I never started a Caring Bridge page, but I should have. That would have helped. That was on me. But I could be stopped 5, 6, 8, 10 times a day. Hey, what's going on? And you got to tell the whole story again. 20 minutes later, somebody stops you. Hey, what's going on? Tell the whole story again, right? And that gets really exhausting. And I don't really know how to counsel us on that because we want to know what's going on because we love these people. We care. We really do. And these people who are asking, they weren't trying to be a pain to me. They meant well. They care deeply. But after, and I think Elsa, you went through that too, didn't you? You got a lot of that, and people mean well. But how do we mitigate that a little bit? Even if you had it too, right? Well, you just had
Yeah.
it this week.
Yeah, just this past week, I was talking to someone. I'm finishing in a class, an end of life class, to be a doula for end of life. And she's in Virginia, so she asked me how summer was and blah, blah, blah. So I told her, and then she had all these questions, and it was almost like I was almost exhausted after talking to her because then I had to relive it again. And I had been okay, but then to relive this all again, it's, and like Mark said, people mean well. She didn't know. And she wanted to know, so I wanted to tell her. But it's like, how do you do that? How do you minister to somebody who's been through something? It's always hard to come to church the first time because so many people ask questions. Now it's easy because we're kind of past that. Some people still ask, which is great. But it's like, how do you be thankful for the people who ask? Because people are genuinely concerned without doing it too much. I don't know. That's a tough one.
Yeah. Any advice in the room? How do we do this well?
Lois?
I think there's two sides to it. We've been through several traumatic things as a family.
Mm-hmm.
And I found that when Jean's mother passed away, I needed to talk about it. So anybody
Sure.
that would come, I'd dump the whole load on them, just so that I could heal myself by talking about it. It was
Sure.
cathartic for me to be able to tell someone my trouble.
Yep.
But that's a way different situation of a visit to a hospital, or in the case of like a sudden tragedy. I needed someone to ask me what happened. that type of thing.
Sure.
Whereas when you're in the hospital and you're trying your best to be a good patient, you don't need other people coming in and giving advice. You trust your doctor and other people need to stay out of it.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Good. Yes, Pete.
In that regard, I think it's important for all of us to realize and not take that personally. If you get a reply, you know, I'd rather not share it.
Oh.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's important that we don't take that personally.
Mm-hmm.
Yep,
And-
that's
and
true.
Try to empathize with Janelle.
Sure.
That's a good point.
Some of us are not real open on things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, that's good advice.
Yeah.
So it's okay to just say, I'd rather not talk about it right now.
Yeah, and then I should accept that and not take offense at it.
Right.
Sure.
We don't want to offend somebody, but we should be cognizant of that some people are more private.
Right.
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 And again, I think it depends on your relationship with the visitor. Because, some people, like I said, came and I knew they just wanted to talk about it with their ladies' group of coffee or something, But others, you don't mind talking about it because they're a genuine friend. So I think the relationship you have with that person also makes a difference.
Two quick experiences I had that I'm now trying to avoid doing to other people because I probably did it before as well. One was at Dort. I was walking through some offices, and a good friend of mine, well-meaning, godly man, very loudly, "Now what is going on with Janelle? What is happening with Janelle?" And I had my arms full of stuff, and I was on my way somewhere, and it was just like, oh, not now. I can't handle this right now. So I was able to get out of it, right? And then another time I was in a store, and I was getting coffee, and somebody yelled from across, they saw me from across the store, "Mark, what's going on with Janelle?" Really? Please, let's not do this right now. I just can't handle this right now. It was right in the thick of everything, right? So, and again, I probably would have done the same thing because I want to know. I love these people. That's maybe not the time or the way. So how do we be more sensitive about it? Just taking care of each other.
Just talking about that too. Also remember not just the patient, but the caregiver is going through stuff too. So if you do see a caregiver in the store, maybe quietly give them encouragement, but don't unload on them because they're going through it just with me. So, Mark went through a lot this summer too. So be aware of a caregiver and how they may be affected.
Yeah.
Or the family.
Right.
I know our daughter, Elsa, obviously, her and her family went through a lot. So did all my kids, and sometimes they didn't want to talk about it. Sometimes it was hard. And yeah, just be aware of that.
Yeah, on a more positive note, another time at Dort, I was walking down the hall and someone was coming. I thought, oh boy, it's going to happen again. We're going to have to deal with this again. And this person just said, "You know what, Mark, I'm praying for you." And that was fantastic. They didn't ask a lot of questions, but I knew they acknowledged it. They were sensitive to it. It's like, oh, that just lifted me up. I didn't have to stop and tell the whole story again. I didn't know what their motives were, right? So we're all learning. We're all learning. Yes, Dell.
I was just going to say, regardless of the level of care or treatment you're going through, to have them come in and say, with this appearance, if you don't say too much, that, so you've had to go through all this, and and you go, yeah, right, but, the health care and God's grace has gotten me here, and so, and then that kind of shifts the conversation to say, oh, you want to talk about God's grace, you want to talk about a positive thing.
Sure.
It mentally, because when you first come in, everybody kind of wants to naturally kind of go there. It's just kind of a gravitational pull.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
It is.
But you can kind of switch and you have to, prepared to do that.
Right.
Yeah.
And put a positive spin. Yeah.
Yep.
Judy, did you have something too?
Two experiences.
I'm thinking of you.
Mm.
Mhm.
As,
Yep, I'm thinking of you.
Yep.
That way you acknowledge it without going into all the details.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah, that's good. Anyone else before we move on? Yeah, Eric?
How do you view electronic interaction versus in-person interaction? Like, is that simpler because you can deal with it on your own terms, or is it less personal?
It's a good question.
I think,
The
If-
question was electronic intervention.
if people sent texts with Bible verses and stuff, which Sherry did, and different people here did, I think that was an encouragement because, yeah, I didn't have to talk to anyone. And I could just say thank you or whatever. But you knew that person was thinking of you. So you felt the love of that person without having to do the visiting and the talking and the interruption with your care and that kind of thing. So, yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. I think it could go two ways again, depending on the relationship.
Yep.
What she said was really helpful, and then there were other times when there would be people who are, we're not super close, but every day, what's going on today? Right? And then there'd be another person, what's going on today? It just takes a lot of time and energy, right, to respond to every person's request. And again, I should have had a Caring Bridge page that would have solved some of these issues, but I didn't. So it depends on the relationship too, I think.
But I think also not asking them how they are, but just giving the Bible verse. Or I'm thinking of you today. I prayed for you this morning. That kind of thing, not saying, how are you? Right? Just
Yeah.
giving the Bible verse or the encouragement would have been enough.
Yeah.
Because then they know you're thinking of them. Yep.
Good question. Yeah,
There
sure.
might be times that the person is so ill, they don't have their phone anymore, or they shouldn't have it.
Yeah.
And that's when, yeah, you might text a family member.
Right.
Yeah.
But I think even not responding back to a text is okay.
Yep.
Yep.
You sent it, it's fine.
Right.
Yep.
It's okay if you didn't get a response back.
And you went through that. You kind of ignored your phone for a number of weeks.
I
'cause
did.
You just couldn't handle it anymore.
Yeah, I mean, at the beginning, obviously I wasn't with it, so I didn't have my phone. And then, I mean, to be honest, sometimes people would call or text, and I wouldn't even answer the phone. Even Mark, sometimes Elsa, whatever, because it was too much for me. I think it was too much to have to talk to someone. I just wanted to lay there and be quiet. I didn't want to talk, And again, depends on the relationship and where you are in your care, and in your pain levels and all that stuff. But yeah, sometimes the text might have been easier, just like Sherry said, even if you don't respond, you can just read it and they're thinking of you. Yep,
So back to what Pete said, don't be offended if you don't get a response, I guess.
right.
Eric, did you have some wisdom for us, or are we just asking a question? All right.
Sure. Yep.
All right, we have all the negative behind us. Now we're going to focus on some positive. Be brief, be bright, be a blessing. Someone mentioned this to you.
Mm-hmm.
We can't remember who it was. Was it you?
No.
I don't know what
Wasn't
you're
you? Okay. Wasn't you? Okay. Somebody said it really
Apparently not.
stuck with us. So be brief. Yeah. Oh, we might as well go ahead, Janelle. You got some
No, go
ideas there? Well, I'm going to jump here. This is.
This is yours.
All right. Somebody mentioned this to me. They said your visit should take about as long as it takes to smoke a cigarette. So I looked it up, and it takes about 5 to 7 minutes to smoke a cigarette.
Don't do that in the
right,
room.
Mark, you looked it up. Okay.
So, thoughts on that? 5 to 7 minutes. What do you think? Cheryl, what are you thinking? Does that seem right or seem too short? What do you think? Yeah?
10 minutes is good.
10 minutes? Again, it depends on the relationship, doesn't it? It really depends on the relationship.
Mm-hmm.
You had someone visit you for a couple hours and it was fantastic.
Yep. Carrie.
Yep.
You know, and that was great. You know, I needed that visit, and that was great. And I had one other person. Again, it's so nice the negative people aren't from our church. That they came and they said, I figure when someone is sick, I only stay an hour.
And she pulled up a chair and sat down.
She was there for an hour and a half. And she's a friend of mine, but kind of difficult. She's kind of like what I was going through. She likened it to when she had something very brief. You know, that kind of person that's always, oh, mine was so bad. And so that was a long hour and a half. Time does not fly at that point.
I would just say, making a lot of visits, I tend to be very brief in my visits. I try to be. On the other hand, you said somewhere following the lead. It says you follow the patient's lead.
Yeah.
There may be a patient who wants to rehearse it and hasn't had a chance to break it down with somebody.
Sure.
And good practice is deny yourself.
Yeah.
If you want to stay longer, you probably should stay shorter. If you want to stay shorter and they're asking you to stay longer, you probably ought to.
Yeah.
Yep.
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 I think
There.
we always felt when Jean was in Sioux Falls, people were taking 3 hours of their time to pay a visit. We wanted to be respectful to them and make it worth their while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was, we enjoyed the visit. It wasn't bad. It was just that we wanted to be respectful of what they'd done for us.
Sure.
Right. Yeah, that's hard when someone drives all the way to Sioux Falls to visit, and then you say 5 to 7 minutes. Well, yeah, that doesn't seem fair to them. Yeah, I agree.
Daryl, I know you had some thoughts on this, didn't you?
All I'm gonna say is that if I would have to choose between going to see somebody in the hospital or when they're home, I would a lot rather go to the hospital. Because when the person gets home, then they're dealing with everything else that's going on at home already. They need their peace and quiet. So when you go to them in the hospital, you can leave when you must, come when you can. You can just read the room and just see how are they doing today? Maybe it's only for 10 minutes, maybe you can last for 30 minutes, but don't overstay your welcome.
How do you know? I mean, what's the signals?
Body language, know how to read people, their facial expressions, or maybe they don't say little, you catch things when they're said under their breath.
Like, will you leave now?
Yeah, it's just the way, or a nurse comes in the room and say, oh, good, now I can leave. So, yeah.
Yeah.
I had a nurse at the Orange City Hospital tell me, she said, we should have a code word that when you want someone to leave, I'll come in and say, oh, can you step out? We need to do whatever.
Yeah.
So,
I think with home, I think we do have a tendency to check ahead. Hospital we don't. Just assume that
Yeah.
you're there, you can't go anywhere, can't do anything else, we're just gonna show up.
Right.
right.
At home, when you're bringing a meal or something, you're a little more respectful to say, can we stop by just for, whatever?
Yep.
So
Sure.
That helps a little bit too.
Yep.
Should we do that for hospital visits? Check in ahead, or what do y'all think?
If you don't, be very sensitive to the fact that you're the guest and you're not the priority.
Yep.
There's medical stuff happening.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
You always did that. You always checked ahead. Is this a good time to come? And we
Yep.
always
Not always,
appreciated
but,
that.
but sometimes.
Yep.
But even then, if you check ahead and all of a sudden the nurse decides this is the time they're coming in, it
Step
doesn't matter
out.
that you checked ahead because they're the priority. They have to
Yep.
Yep.
care for you.
Yep.
I think, yeah. Well, we can jump ahead. That's I want to go back to that just a minute. Do we text ahead for hospital visits? I think it's an individual call of your relationship again as well. But one thing we've learned over this summer that we weren't totally aware of before for some reason, when you're in the hospital, you have no agency. You're in a gown. You can't even wear your own clothes. People are coming and going all day long, and you have no say over who's coming through that door and who's leaving. We're going to take your blood now. Oh, I get no say over that either, right? And then visitors come barging in and they come barging out. That's a terrible way to say it. I don't mean it that way. How do we show respect to the, because they're still whoever they are, just like they were at home. Now they're in a hospital room. And exactly what you said, Dale. At home, we would have checked in first. Hey, is this a good time to come? In the hospital, we just go. Maybe that's okay. I don't know. Or maybe we text ahead and say, is it okay if I come at 2 o'clock? A lot of people did that, and that was often from like 1 to 3 was the only time of day when it was quiet in your room and you could rest. And so you'd often say, could you come after 3?
Yep.
That was really nice when people did that.
Yep.
Again, something to think about.
Based on what you just said, isn't it true, and I'm gonna ask the nurses in the room, generally the mornings are the busiest medically? Is that right?
Probably. But then, like Mark said, you have your resting time in the afternoon, which is for Janelle, in a long period of time being in the hospital,
Yep.
you needed your rest.
Yep.
More than you needed a visit.
I think Sherry's right. She said something earlier. I think people don't understand when you're in the hospital, it's an every hour check. It's not a, hey, good night, and then we'll see you in the morning. It's every hour.
Mhm.
During the night.
And yeah.
All
that's
night
what it
long,
is.
yeah.
Yeah.
Until 7 a.m. You're not awake, are you? Depends how much noise the machine's making.
Yeah, exactly. How many beeps there are, exactly.
You can count them after a while, you know just how many there are.
Yeah.
Well, like at Sanford, they would come at 4 in the morning and wake me up to take my blood because they start their rounds at 3, and then they came in at 5:30 to do x-rays. And then the residents came in, and then the surgeon came in, and you're exhausted because you've been up since 3:30 or 4. So, yeah, I agree. The mornings are probably the busiest.
Be bright, don't pity the patient, discuss other issues, let them set the tone, help but don't hover. Tox, any advice on that? You guys are pretty good at this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I learned in hospice training is that when you're in the room, remember that there's a patient and often a caregiver. And some people forget the patient and spend all the time talking to the caregiver.
Mm.
And some people forget the caregiver and spend all their time trying to talk to a patient
Sure.
who's tired and weary. And there's kind of a balance that you have to find.
Yep.
Sure.
Yeah. Any other advice on how to be bright? This doesn't mean, well, you're not sick. No, you acknowledge something's going on. We know that. But how do we be bright while also having a good visit?
For me, when I have good friends in the hospital, these are good friends. I often talk about commonality things that we hold in common outside of the hospital
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
and outside of the illness.
Mm-hmm.
Just to remind them that there is a beyond. To
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Hopefully life goes on, right?
Right.
Let's talk about what's coming up, right? That's very helpful. It can be encouraging. Yeah. Kind of goes back to that other point about maybe they're tired of talking about their own situation. Read the room a little bit, see how the person's doing. Maybe let's talk about something else. Be bright.
Yeah, I had one nurse come in to visit, and she we got started talking, and I'm trying to raise money to build a hospice home, and she had heard that. And so we talked about the hospice home because Emily had been involved in hospice. So I still remember that visit because for one of the first times I could look through the front window and not keep looking behind and thinking, oh, maybe there is an end to this. You know, even though it took way longer than I thought it would be. But at least it gave me something to think about. So I think that was helpful too, to talk beyond the hospital.
Could I, this is confidentiality maybe, but I'm sure this is one you'd love to share with them anyway.
Go ahead.
But one hope thing that you really kept as bright to you was Layton's consistently saying, I'm going to put off my next drink at this special place until you can do it with me, and I'm looking forward to it, right? So
Yeah.
she was planting hope in you, wasn't she?
Yeah.
So is that true?
Yeah.
I mean, that's the kind of thing that would be a helpful.
Yeah, because then you look forward to doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah, our granddaughter Layton said that she wouldn't have a drink from Scooters until I could take her there again. So she didn't. And that was, yeah, I mean, we talked about when we would take her and stuff. So, I mean, yeah, that planted hope, you know?
You know, it's 15 or 16 weeks on her part of not getting her drink.
I know.
A big deal.
And did you cry when you took her?
I did, of course. I cry a lot. I cried a lot before. I cry more now. And just one thing, sometimes you can minister without saying anything, and of course I'm going to cry. When I had my neck surgery in 2018, the night before surgery, for whatever reason, I forget, Mark couldn't be there. And Pastor John offered to sit outside my room with his laptop all night long just so I wasn't alone. And he called it the ministry of presence. And I still think of that often. You know, he didn't do, I told him he didn't need to, but just that someone being there, you know, that you weren't alone. So sometimes maybe you can do something like that and not even talk to them, but just be there. Because having been there from like 3 to 5 in the morning is a very difficult time when you're a patient, because you can't sleep and it's dark outside and there's no one to talk to because everybody else is sleeping. So that was a very dark time for me. So to have someone outside the room that I could say, Pastor John, could you come in here? And then you could talk to someone. Because, you know, your thoughts aren't always the greatest at 3 to 5 in the morning when you're doing it by yourself.
Any thoughts on that, or? Yeah.
I will agree that sometimes just if somebody, because I was in the hospital 10 years ago with Mama for 2 or 3 days. And sometimes if somebody just came and sat there, that meant just as much as if they said anything. Just that they showed up, that they cared.
Yep.
Bring a book. Just be with them.
Yeah, just be there. And if they're willing, if each person in the hospital is willing to talk, then you can talk. But if sometimes it's only for 10 or 15 minutes, yeah. 'Cause I know then, I was tired. I slept a lot.
Yeah, Mark would do that sometimes. He would come and he would tell me I could sleep, and then he would read a book so you didn't feel like you were trying to entertain somebody. So yeah, if you take a book or a magazine or something and just say you'll be there, then they know somebody's there, but they don't have to put forth all the effort of visiting.
Talking takes a lot more strength than you realize it does.
Yeah.
When you're that tired.
Yep. Our last slide, maybe we've covered this already. Be a blessing. Summary, encouragement. Remember, the patient has no agency, no control over who walks through the door and when. They're probably wearing a gown. Talk to them about things you've talked about before. Treat them like the person they are. Offer hope, encouragement, and friendship. Any other ideas on how to be a blessing?
I think this happened to me when I was a kid. This was a super long time ago, whatever. I had an emergency situation, I was in the hospital. Whatever the situation was, my parents and brother basically didn't show up for like 2 days. So I was kind of by myself. And kind of listening to this and going through that blessing one, like they all said, just be there, just be present, be something that's there, makes a big difference. Because I remember being so upset and angry. Here I
Sure.
am in this hospital situation. I was angry at my parents.
Mm.
That's not healthy
Mm-hmm.
at all. So I think that's important to just be present
Mm.
in some manner. I like just listening, like the text. Just be meaningful. Like you said, somebody passed you in the thought, hey, I'm praying for you.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's huge.
It's huge.
Yep.
And that's big. And so like, and we didn't have text when I was in the hospital as a kid, but like if my parents had just sent me a text saying, hey, we're thinking about you, that would have made all the difference in the world. They didn't
Yep.
call, they didn't, I mean, not that my parents were bad people, but unfortunately.
Sure.
But I mean, it's like they
Yeah.
just didn't,
Sure.
I didn't hear from anybody.
Yep.
Yeah.
So don't be hesitant to not do something, but just be present in some sort of manner.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I think it's important.
It's good advice. Thanks. Yeah, Pete.
Let's give credit to Calvary Shepherd because they do a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Janelle was Nancy's shepherd, and she was great.
Yeah. Yeah, our shepherds are pretty good at being a blessing. Mm-hmm. Yeah, good. Anyone else?
I would just say to you two, I mean, what a blessing you've been here today. And this is such an important topic
Mm-hmm.
that our own denomination has put forth visiting in Christ's name
Mm.
module to help us all with this.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
It's just an extension of what you've done here. But, you know, as well-meaning as we are, you know, Pastor had mentioned that, you know, they're trained in seminary. We don't all get that. We just have to learn by trial and error.
Right.
Right.
So I think it's just this and what else is offered. I think it's just a chance for us lay people to be able to care for one another and do it in a manner that you're suggesting today.
Yep.
Really good.
Yeah, and over a lifetime, maybe we'll get better at it slowly and incrementally, right? But yeah, Calvary's good at visiting. We hope we didn't come across as negative. That was not our intention. We just
I'm going to take this moment to say, echo what you just said, Bill, because I hear you almost apologizing a little bit. I really encourage these two to do something like this because they're exceptional in the amount of time that they spend, so that they won't be viewed poorly by getting up and saying this. And I can say I've been really blessed by their getting up and having this time with us. So thank you both for making yourself available as we really pushed you kind of on this. Such a good presentation. Excellent.
thanks.
Thank
Anybody
you.
else? Before we close in prayer?
Just give you a hand.
Yeah.
Well, let's close in prayer. Father, thank you so much for this church. Thank you for the caring people in our church and for the ready hands and the willingness that we see so often to come around and cut down trees and bring food and visit hospitals. Lord, we're so grateful for it. Forgive us, Lord, when we make mistakes, and help us to be patient with each other. Help us all to continue learning, to get better at this, to be more sensitive, to be bright, to be a blessing in each other's lives, both when we're healthy and when we're not. Lord, keep us safe. We have people in our church right now who are going through things and who need the blessing. They need the brightness in their lives. Help us to be sensitive to them, Lord, to know how to do it well, to give us your spirit to read the room, as it were, and to understand how we can be the hands and feet of Jesus.